It was a cold and calm day on December 4th, 1872, when Captain David Morehouse of the DEI Gracia spotted an unmanned vessel drifting in the distance. As they drew nearer, they recognized the ship as the Mary Celeste, which had departed from New York a month earlier on a voyage to Genoa, Italy. Morehouse knew Captain Benjamin Briggs of the Mary Celeste, and the sight of his friend's ship without any signs of life immediately raised alarm. Little did Morehouse know his discovery would spark one of the most perplexing mysteries in maritime history. When Morehouse and his crew boarded the Mary Celeste, they found a ship in perfect condition. There was no sign of distress, the sails were partly set, and the cargo of industrial alcohol was intact. In fact, the only things missing were the crew, the ship's single lifeboat, and some navigational instruments. What's particularly eerie is that the last entry in the ship's logbook was dated November 25th, that is 10 days before its discovery. It recorded the ship's position near the Azores, but there was no mention of distress or unusual events. The lack of any clues in the logbook adds to the mystery, as it suggests that whatever caused the crew to abandon the ship must have happened suddenly and without time for formal documentation. Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and 7 crew members had all vanished without a trace. From the moment the abandoned ship was discovered, theories about what happened to it began circulating almost immediately. Are grounded in science, while others take on a more supernatural tone, and even today, the disappearance of the Mary Celeste crew remains unsolved. Captain Briggs was a well-respected and experienced sailor. Born into a family of seafarers, he was described as level-headed, devout, and meticulous. His decision to bring his wife and young daughter on the voyage suggests he had full confidence in the ship and its crew. The journey began on November 7th, 1872, with 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, a highly flammable and potentially dangerous cargo, destined for Genoa. Everything seemed routine until the ship vanished into mystery. The first theory to emerge was piracy. The 19th century wasn't without pirate activity in the Atlantic, and a ship carrying valuable cargo could certainly be a target. But this theory was quickly ruled out. When the DEI Gracia found the Mary Celeste, its cargo was untouched. Pirates wouldn't leave behind something as valuable as barrels of alcohol. Additionally, there were no signs of violence, no blood, and no significant damage to the ship. It was almost as if the crew had simply disappeared into thin air. Mutiny was another theory considered in the early days. Could it be that Captain Briggs has fallen victim to a rebellion? Transporting large quantities of alcohol could have created tension aboard the ship, as the crew may have feared for their safety. However, Briggs was known for his good relationship with his crew, and there were no signs of a struggle. Additionally, all 7 crew members had been personally selected by Briggs for their reliability and skills, making mutiny an unlikely scenario. One of the more plausible theories involves a natural disaster. The Atlantic is known for its unpredictable weather, and sudden storms can cause panic on even the sturdiest of ships. Some have suggested that a waterspout, a tornado-like phenomenon that occurs over water, might have struck the Mary Celeste. A waterspout could have caused enough chaos to scare the crew into abandoning ship, believing it to be sinking. However, the ship itself was still seaworthy, and its cargo and provisions were intact. The crew's lifeboat was never found, which adds another layer of confusion to the waterspout theory. Another possible explanation relates to Mary Celeste's volatile cargo of denatured alcohol. Leaks from the barrels could have caused noxious fumes to build up, sparking fears of an explosion. Modern scientists have explored this idea further. Dr. Andrea Sella, a professor of chemistry, conducted an experiment to determine if alcohol vapors could have caused a non-flammable explosion, one that would leave the ship unharmed, but terrify the crew. His findings suggest that a violent pressure wave could have occurred, leading the crew to believe they were in imminent danger. If they feared the ship was about to explode, it's possible they abandoned it in a panic, taking the lifeboat and leaving behind their personal belongings. But why didn't they return? And what happened to the lifeboat? There's also a possibility that the ship encountered a rogue wave or series of waves strong enough to flood the ship's hold with seawater, leading the crew to think the ship was sinking. In their haste, they may have launched the lifeboat with the intention of returning once the situation stabilized, only to be caught in treacherous seas. Yet the open waters of the Atlantic make it highly unlikely that the crew would have survived long in such a small lifeboat, and their bodies were never found. The ship's condition provided more clues but no clear answers. When Morehouse and his crew boarded the Mary Celeste, they found 3.5 feet of water in the ship's hold, though this wasn't enough to sink the vessel. The ship's pumps, used to remove water, were found disassembled, raising the question of whether the crew had been struggling with malfunctioning equipment. It's possible that if the pump stopped working, the crew may have believed the ship was taking on more water than it actually was, leading them to abandon it. Perhaps the most outlandish theory is that the crew of the ship fell victim to a supernatural force. Some claim the ship was cursed or that its crew was abducted by aliens. Others point to the Bermuda Triangle, even though the Mary Celeste was nowhere near that region. Despite these far-fetched ideas, there's no evidence to suggest anything paranormal was involved, although such theories do capture the imagination. The legal proceedings that followed the discovery of Mary Celeste added more intrigue to the story. A salvage hearing was held in Gibraltar to determine whether Captain Morehouse and his crew were entitled to a portion of the Mary Celeste's insurance payout. Suspicion briefly fell on Morehouse and his crew, as some believed they may have staged the abandonment in order to profit from the salvage. However, there was no evidence to support this, and the salvage court eventually awarded the DEI Gracia crew a smaller sum than expected, largely due to the mystery surrounding the case. Despite the many investigations, no clear explanation ever emerged, and the Mary Celeste continued to sail under new ownership, though it seemed to carry a curse. Some suggest the ship is cursed, pointing to its troubled history before and after the famous incident. Several of the ship's previous owners had financial difficulties or other misfortunes. After its discovery, the ship continued to sail under different owners, but it was plagued by bad luck. In 1885, the ship's last owner deliberately wrecked it off the coast of Haiti in an attempt to commit insurance fraud, further cementing its eerie legacy. The once proud brigantine was now nothing more than a symbol of misfortune. Over time, the Mary Celeste has entered folklore as one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the sea. Books, films, and documentaries have kept the story alive, each adding their own twist or interpretation. The ship has even been linked to stories of haunted ships and ghostly apparitions, though no credible evidence supports these claims. In recent years, researchers have revisited the case with modern technology, hoping to solve the mystery once and for all. Advanced weather models have allowed scientists to recreate the possible conditions the Mary Celeste might have faced, and forensic analysis of the ship's timbers has offered new insights. Still, even with all the tools at our disposal, the fate of the Mary Celeste's crew remains elusive. The appeal of the Mary Celeste mystery lies in its simplicity. There are no grand conspiracies or epic battles, just an empty ship adrift at sea. And yet that very emptiness invites endless speculation. Was it a freak accident, human error, or something more sinister? Each new theory only deepens the enigma. In the end, the Mary Celeste may never reveal its secrets, but perhaps that's what makes the story so enduring. The unanswered questions leave room for imagination, turning a simple shipwreck into one of the most famous and debated mysteries in maritime history. We may never know what truly happened, but as long as people are fascinated by the unknown, the Mary Celeste will sail on through the annals of history. The mystery of the Mary Celeste may remain unsolved, but it's a reminder of just how vast and unpredictable the oceans can be. What do you think happened to Captain Briggs and his crew? Was it a natural disaster, or is there something more sinister at play? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries.